Greetings, brothers and sisters in Christ and YouTube visitors. Alright, I want to read something that's pretty pertinent, pretty intense. Title is Values and Viewpoints Are No Longer Shared Nationwide in the Culturally Fractured United States. Alright. Let me get right into this. Probably take me about 10 minutes to read this. America is conflicted by opposing worldviews. It's a culture clash of immense consequence. There are, broadly speaking and leaving aside exceptions and blends, primarily these two opposed groupings. 1. Humanists, atheists, socialists, social gospel and liberation theology Christians and New Agers, and number 2, those largely committed to historically traditional American founding values. Okay, those in the first group mostly believe humans are simply evolved social animals, randomly mutated accidents of biochemical matter where the fittest survive and govern the less fit, granting, infringing, and rescinding alienable human-animal defined rights. Those in the second group mostly believe humans are eternal beings created in the image and likeness of a personal creator God with God-given responsibilities and unalienable rights to life and liberty. When those holding traditional American values encounter those committed to humanist doctrines, value conflicts result. Differing worldviews embrace different criteria, epistemologies, that is, the theory of knowledge, logic, empiricism, intuition, feelings, altered states of consciousness, divine revelation, for interpreting the sense data of experience. So, only those in a particular group share their common sense views. Values and viewpoints are no longer shared nationwide. These conflicts include government laws and regulations, government unions, schooling, environmentalism, judicial and economic equality, Fabian socialism, the United Nations, Islam, gun control, etc. Worldviews differ on 1. The criteria for determining truth, morals, and values, and 2. Views of God and cosmos, and 3. The nature of the self. Today, oneself is viewed differently from Christian colonization days. An Oxford English Dictionary, 1680, reads, excuse me, self is the great antichrist and anti-God in the world. By the mid-1800s, American views of self were changing. Walt Whitman, the homosexual poet who wrote Leaves of Grass, wrote, "Nothing but God is greater to one than oneself. Nothing, not God, is greater to one than oneself." All right. Contemporaries Whitman and Ralph Waldo Emerson saw the self as one's soul, ultimate authority, and a vague transcendentalism which replaced Christian morality with humanistic, non-biblical, flexibly evolving moralism. And by the way, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's hailed so highly, exalted so highly in our public schools, was basically an he was a transcendentalist. He was opposed to the truth of the gospel and the historic faith known as Calvinism. Very intelligent man, but a lost man. Alright, so anyway. Christian morality with humanistic, non-biblical, flexibility. Abraham Maslow, another humanist, noted 20th century psychologist, asserted one's highest psychological goal is self-actualization, a peak experience common to Gnostics and Eastern pantheists, in becoming one's own God and law. In essence, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Sounds like Anton Szandor LaVey, the high priest of the First Church of Satan in San Francisco. Sounds like Satanism in a way. Clearly, massive cultural changes have occurred considering the worldviews prevalent at our founding. In 1776, the Continental Congress selected a committee of 5 to conceptualize the Declaration of Independence, which acknowledges laws of nature and nature's God, and all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. The Declaration was the visionary mission statement for the United States. The Constitution and Bill of Rights, its practical implementation plan. The founders held to varied hues of Christianity, deism, and Freemasonry. None were atheistic humanists or Eastern pantheists. In his latter years, Benjamin Franklin wrote, quote, "Here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped. As to Jesus of Nazareth, my opinion of whom you particularly desire, I think the system of morals and his religion, as he left them to us, is the best the world ever saw, or is less likely to see." That came from Benjamin Franklin. Interesting. "I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men, and if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? No, it is not. We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel." Unquote. Today, our republic's founders would be in a minority, labeled deplorables and bibliophiliacs by university consensus ideologues. The bicoastal cognoscenti, Hollywood's glitterati, and the chattering classes who devoutly follow the secular priesthood of pundits, anchors, journalists, psychologists, and certified experts employed by the Big Six media cartel, the major philanthropic foundations, and big government to enable their keeping up with what's in and the currently correct consensus of political opinions. The founders would note our transformation from a republic into an ever-expanding, plastically pliable mass democracy. Careful students of history, they knew democracies with man-made standards are radically flexible. In time, they lead inescapably to disorder, anarchic fragmentation, and chaos, resulting in some variant of despotism. Well, one Christian historian said that democracies lead to dictatorships or tyrannies, and that's where the United States is headed. Majority rule is not a Christian concept. Government by law, a Republican form of government, would seem to fit the biblical model. St. George Tucker, judge, soldier, sometimes smuggler, and law professor, a leading legal and constitutional thinker of the American Revolution, who fought at Yorktown, wrote, quote, "This may be considered as the true palladium of liberty. The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. In most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine this right within the narrowest limits possible. Wherever standing armies are kept up, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms is, under any color or pretext whatsoever, prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction." And we got the idiots out there trying to legislate more gun control and to violate the Second Amendment, which our founding fathers gave us, to fight against tyranny, to ensure security and freedom for the American people. Asked after the Constitutional Convention, "Well, doctor, what have we got?" Benjamin Franklin, then 81 years of age, answered, "A republic if you can keep it." Additionally, he observed, "When the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic, and they that give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech." A lifelong letter writer and one-time newspaper owner, Franklin, as an old man, having read so many of his own and others' letters, concluded, "Being ignorant is not so much a shame as being unwilling to learn." Franklin would have found repugnant those of our humanist contemporaries who embraced postmodernist poet Edward Hirsch's worldly wise guy conclusion, "Wisdom is for the child. As you grow old, cherish folly, leap into the void." Unquote. Pity those valuing the spontaneous protest of children's crusades over civil discourse, study and seasoned reflection as foundational for wise public policy and for foolishly abandoning the fullness of Solomon's insightful proverb. We admire the strength of youth and respect the gray age of age, says Victor Pourlier, a master online reader. And then the comments or commentary by R.E. McMaster of the newsletter. Quote, discredited CIA asset Facebook is working with Mueller. Mueller and the FBI have now gone rogue in going after Trump and his lawyer. Long-standing U.S. attorney/client privilege was violated, was unconstitutional. This is lawlessness at the highest level by the FBI. Unsettled Trump is angry and lashing out. Trump has been forced by the deep state's Anglo-Zionist neocons to go after Syria, and Russia and Iran, the real targets, on behalf of Zionist Israel. I suspect the deep state has reams of juicy blackmail material on Trump. How could such not be, given the nature and history of the man? U.S. Republican House members are bailing out at the fastest pace in modern history, like rats leaving a sinking ship, 37 or so. Young U.S. voters indicate they will vote Democratic/Socialist/Collectivist, with Democrats outnumbering Republicans 2-1. If the U.S. Democrats take the U.S. House in the November midterm elections, these leftist/collectivist/socialists bought-off blackmail Democrats say they will immediately move to impeach Trump. If so, then the U.S. stock market and the U.S. dollar will likely tank. The U.S. economy will sink, and the already polarized racial and political violence in the United States will likely become red hot in the U.S. cities. Martial law could be declared by Trump, and a likely financial, economic, and social meltdown. Additionally, Red China will probably sabotage Trump in the November midterm elections in revenge for Trump's trade sanctions, possibly by dumping its huge pile of UST debt. Treasury debt, that is. The ruling elite, Red Chinese Mafia, is notoriously implacable and vindictive. We might not make it until November, the way the war is ramping up in Syria. The raving psychopaths who run the deep state would literally rather nuke and destroy the world and humanity with it rather than relinquish power. This is just the nature of these pitbull Western deep state ruling psychopaths. The wild card remains Russia and how many more of these malicious globalist assaults it will tolerate. Russia does have the high-tech weapons, as does Red China, against which there is no viable defense. Alright, give me a thumbs up if you like this video, share it with your friends and family. Until we meet again, may the Lord richly bless you.